Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Patrick.
My pleasure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you too. Now, what does the policy do as regarding South Africa's lingering unemployment crisis?
It's a broad sweeping policy, and it tries to bring together all of the different pieces of legislation relating to migration of people into South Africa and out of South Africa, people working in South Africa and people living in South Africa. So it's a comprehensive policy that tries to pull everything together. Because one of the big problems to date has been a kind of disaggregation of policies in different government departments like Home Affairs and Department of Labor to deal with various aspects of it. And also as a consequence, the statistics and numbers have been not coherently put together so that we could drill down into where the problem areas are so that we could use the analytics of the data to determine policy. So that is really what it's all about. And central to it is the creation, or the amendment of an existing state employment service agency, which will be the central piece of it to pull all of the information together, to pull all of the departments together, to analyze where the weaknesses are in the systems, and to be able to regulate various sectors which are most vulnerable to abuse from people who are employing foreigners, documented, undocumented, in conditions that are infringe on labor laws, but also have caused tensions with local South Africans who are in search of jobs, particularly at the lower ends, and they're coming into conflict with what they perceive as outsiders coming in to take their jobs and outsiders coming in to create businesses in competition with them. And it's trying to diffuse a growing problem in that area by regulating it in a coherent, overarching manner.
Patrick, historically, the mining sector in South Africa has relied on a mix of local and migrant labor, mainly from Mozambique, Lesotho, and Swaziland. But tell us, why is that so? And how does that affect production in the mining sector?
Well, you're absolutely right, particularly in the SADC regions, as you say. I mean, the local, southern countries around South Africa. It's been a long-standing, ever since mining started, in the late 1880s, actually. So it's coming up for some 120 odd years. That basically the idea was to bring in cheap labor from rural areas to do the hard work in mines that was available and that was needed as the gold mining industry grew, the diamond mining industry grew, and then the base metals industries grew as well. And more, there was a practice of sourcing migrant laborers from places like the Eastern Cape, with the then Transkei, from Lesotho, from Mozambique, and from Zimbabwe, and from Angola even. So surrounding countries were drawing on labor and bringing them in to work on the mines, and then they would then go back home for rest periods and come back. So that's the kind of pattern of migratory patterns that has developed. And it has created a whole lot of consequential problems for those who work on the mines because of broken families and their living conditions in South Africa, which have essentially been almost like on a permanent temporary basis, a come and go kind of basis. So that's the sort of migratory pattern of labor that has developed in the mining sector over this long period of time, which is still continues to this day. Less so, but it still continues.
Okay, well, finally, Patrick, South Africa's food and beverage sector, that is actually restaurants now, have both foreign and domestic workers. And this sector pays in cash and tips, which makes it easier for some undocumented people to work in this industry. Would you say that it's healthy for the beverage sector? Quickly, Patrick.
It's not healthy, and it's going to be regulated, and particularly those industries where the hospitality, the restaurant business needs to be tightened up, and there will be regulations around only documented people and quotas, actually, which will be introduced in that particular sector and others like tourism to manage the number of foreigners competing for jobs against local people.
Thank you so much, Patrick, for joining us on the news.
My pleasure.